I assumed my great-grandparents had a simple story. James and Clara Cahoon, one marriage, a bunch of kids. The kind of black and white family history you don't question. But the more I looked, the less that held up. Names didn't line up. Timelines overlapped. People appeared and then disappeared. What I thought was one life started to look like several, stacked on top of each other. And at the center of it was Clara. Not as a footnote, not as someone's wife, but as someone who kept starting over, again and again. This isn't really a story about who she married. It's about what she survived. Clara Elizabeth Bryant was born December 13th, 1885 in the city of Champions, Brockton, Massachusetts, a factory town, shoes mostly. And if you know Brockton, you already have an opinion about it. People either love it or talk shit about it forever, sometimes both at the same time. It's a towny town, blue collar, stubborn, a little rough around the edges, and not pretending to be anything else. Clara's father, Edward Bryant Jr., was a shoe cutter, which meant factory work. Long hours, repetitive, precise. The kind of job that keeps a roof over your head, but not much else. Her mother, Mary, kept the house. 3 girls total, Clara in the middle, Laura just older, Eva much younger. It was a working class life. Structured, predictable. The kind of life where you don't expect much to change. And for a minute, it didn't. In 1908, Clara married Alexander James Andrews. He was from Nova Scotia, a carpenter. A year later, their son Walter was born in Brockton, and then something broke. By 1910, Alexander is living in New Hampshire, listed as a single boarder, not married, not a father, just single. Clara doesn't appear on the census at all, and that gap bothers me because people don't just disappear, not really. It means she was somewhere, staying with someone, working and surviving. Just not recorded in a way that lasted. And that tells you something about how easy it was for a woman to slip out of view back then, especially one without money, without a husband, with a child. There's no dramatic event tied to it, no clean explanation, just absence. And then suddenly, a few years later, she's in New York with a different man, a different life already in progress. No transition, no record of how she got there, just proof that she did. She's 24 years old with a 1-year-old and effectively gone from the record. And Alexander keeps going. He enlists in Maine in 1917 and gets pulled into federal service a month later. He ends up in the supply company, first with the artillery and then with the 56th Pioneer Infantry. So he's not on the front line in the way people picture it, but he's not removed from it either. He's moving supplies, materials, whatever needs to get where it's going so everything else can keep running. He's overseas by September of 1918, right in time for the Meuse-Argonne offensive, and then he stays there through the end of the war and into 1919. And then he comes back and just starts over. That same year, he marries another woman in Maine and lists it as his first marriage, which is a choice, not confusion, not a mistake, a choice to just erase everything that came before, including Clara and their son. And then it ends quickly. By 1923, he's dead in a veterans hospital in Boston. The cause of death is listed as general paralysis of the insane, which is what they called late-stage syphilis. And that doesn't happen overnight. That's something that develops over years. So whatever was going on with him, it didn't start at the end. I also found his obituary, and it's exactly what you would expect. Respected, surrounded by family. His wife is listed, his relatives are listed. It's very clean, very proper. And Clara isn't in it. Walter isn't in it. That entire part of his life is just gone. Which makes me wonder what version of the story the people around him actually knew. Did his wife know about Clara or Walter? Or did he just move on and present himself as someone with no past? I don't know. And there's no way to prove it, either way. But the version of his life that made it onto paper doesn't include them at all. There's no big moment where this falls apart, There's no clear breaking point. It just never really held together to begin with. And Clara is the one left holding what's left of it. Somewhere between 1909 and 1912, Clara disappears from the record. Not metaphorically, just literally. No census, no address. I could find nothing. The same thing happens with James. And then in 1913, they reappear together. In Valatia, New York, Clara gives birth to a daughter, Eva. Clara, her son Walter, and now James Cahoon, my great-grandfather. And if that name sounds familiar, it should, because James was married before Clara, Hattie. And if you were here for season 1, you already know that whole situation was a mess. So no marriage record, no clean beginning, just a life already in motion. James is working as a glassblower. He's working for Freeze Brothers out of New York, which means industrial glass. Lab equipment, medical pieces, things that actually had to function, not just look nice. It's skilled work. You're shaping glass with heat, timing, and control. One wrong move and it's useless. So this isn't something you could just pick up. He knew what he was doing. But it's still not stable. It's the kind of work that goes where the demand is. Different cities, different shops, following the job instead of staying in one place. So they move. 1913, upstate New York. 1915, Lynn, Massachusetts. 1917, Brooklyn, New York. Each move chasing pay. Each move starting over. And in between, more children. Eva in 1913, Wesley in 1914, James Jr. in 1915. And starting over sounds simple when you say it like that, but it's not. It's packing up whatever you have, finding a new place to live, learning a new city, and doing it all again before you've even caught your breath from the last time. And she's doing it with kids. Small kids. Which means there's no real reset. You're just carrying everything with you. Every move is not a fresh start. It's the same life, just somewhere else, and you're still responsible for all of it. That kind of life doesn't leave a lot of room to fall apart. You don't get to. There's too much depending on you. By the time they land in Brooklyn, it's a full household. Small space, tight living, probably a tenement. And then the summer of 1917 hits. By this point, they're living in Brooklyn at 76 Douglas Street. The building is still there. Red brick, narrow, the kind of place that has seen a lot of lives move through it. Fire escapes, stacked windows, people packed in closer than they probably wanted to be. And that's where it happens. Eva dies first, June 29th, meningitis. 15 days later, James Jr. is gone too. Gastroenteritis. Same apartment, same building, same summer heat. And it's not random. This is the kind of place where illness moves fast. Crowded apartments, shared air, kids everywhere. Once something gets in, it doesn't stay contained. A small apartment, too many people in it, windows open because it's hot. Whatever air you can get moving through the space. Kids in and out, noise from the street, neighbors right on the other side of the wall. Life happening all around you, whether you're ready for it or not. And inside that space, one child's gone. And before you can even process that, another one is too. There's no version of that where you get to stop. There are still other kids in the house, still meals, still laundry, still everything that doesn't care what just happened. That's the part that feels most real to me. Not the deaths themselves, but what comes immediately after. The next morning, the same apartment, the same routines except something is missing. And you still have to function. 2 children back to back, and there's no pause for grief. Because by September, they're filing paperwork. September 18th, 1917, in Manhattan, Clara and James apply for a marriage license. After years together, after 3 children, after burying 2 of them within weeks. There's no record showing either of them was legally divorced, but if you do this work too, you know how rare it is to find divorce records. So even that moment isn't clean. It's not a beginning, it's something else. An attempt, maybe, to make something official after everything had already fallen apart. Or maybe just survival. Because that's what this life looks like from the outside. Not stable, not planned, just movement. work, children, loss, and then keep going. By 1917, they leave New York. By 1920, they're back in Massachusetts, Dennis, closer to where it all started. More children follow, not all at once, not in a list, just one after another over years. Gertrude, Roy, Marjorie, Warren, Irene, another James, and finally, Betty, my paternal grandmother. By the end of it, Clara has raised a house full of children, 12 in total, counting Walter. And somewhere in that stretch, life shifts. Not dramatically, not all at once, it just steadies. James is still working, glass blowing, mostly, and later rubber work. And not just factory work either. There are these small moments that show up in the record, mostly in the late 1920s. Little newspaper mentions of him on the Cape doing demonstrations at schools. He's showing students how glass is shaped, how it moves, making ships, birds, and these really delicate pieces out of molten glass. It caught me off guard a little because that's not how he shows up in the earlier part of the story. This is the same guy who in his 20s is getting drunk and starting shit, ending up in the newspapers, and now standing in front of the classroom doing glasswork demonstrations. Okay. And I keep thinking about that alongside Clara, because she works with her hands too. Different medium, but same kind of focus. The same precision, the same need for control. And I don't know if that was something they ever shared or talked about, or if it's something I'm noticing now looking back, but it's there. And it makes him feel a little more human. Not a completely different person, but maybe a different version of him than the one we met at the beginning. Less chaos and more routine. And Clara is there through all of it, holding the house together, raising the kids, moving when they had to, staying where they could. There's no record of her breaking, no record of her complaining, just continuation. By April of 1930, they're still together. The census has them at 67 Eddy Street in Providence, all in the same household. The entire family under one roof. That part's solid. You can point to it. You can picture it, even if the building itself is gone now. And then somewhere between that moment in 1936, something shifts. Because by the time James dies in 1936, he's living at 33 Piedmont Street, also in Providence. And that building's still there. You can still look at it. Same city, different address, different life. He was working as a rubber blower at that point, still doing skilled labor up until the day he died. Cause of death, coronary thrombosis. It doesn't read like a long decline, just finished. And even then, there's this small correction. On his death certificate, the informant is listed as Mrs. James Cahoon. And then in red pencil, it's changed to Clara Cahoon, Sandwich, Massachusetts. Someone made sure her name was there. Not erased, not replaced, just clarified. No record of when their separation happened. No clear reason. Just a change that shows up in where they're living, which honestly feels consistent with everything else in the story. Nothing really ends cleanly. It just moves quietly from one version to another. And that's how it ends for Clara and James Cahoon. Just two people who built a life together and then didn't live in it in the same place anymore. After James dies, that chapter just ends. Not cleanly, just distance and then a death certificate, and that's it. Clara is still here, still in Sandwich, still carrying everything. And then Nathaniel Marchand shows up. He's younger by about 20 years, which, okay, Clara. But his life isn't simple either. He was born in 1905 and his mother died less than 2 weeks after he was born. So he starts his life with loss too. His father's a railroad brakeman. Married multiple times, lots of movement, lots of instability. Same pattern, different version. And somehow they find each other. No record of how, no story, which at this point feels very on brand. But this part of her life feels different, quieter, less chaotic. And this is where her work really shows up. She's making model ships in East Sandwich, and these are not little hobby projects. These are detailed, precise, honestly kind of insane in terms of craftsmanship. The rigging alone would take forever. This is not something you casually pick up. She knew what she was doing. And there's a photo of her working on one. She looks tired. You can see it in her face, but she's steady and completely focused. And she has a flower in her hair, which is such a small thing, but it stuck with me. Like, even after everything, she still cared how she showed up. And she looks exactly like my grandmother. That's the moment it stopped feeling distant. And then she's in National Geographic, which I was not expecting. She's in the June 1946 issue. There's a photo of her working, and they mention that she's selling these ships to support her kids, and they're selling for $100 each in 1946, which is not nothing. That's real money. I would love to know what one of these would go for today, and I wish I could find one. So these weren't just little crafts she was making to pass time. People were buying them and paying for them. And she says, I have to have a jackknife and a piece of wood in my hands or I'm lost. Like a clock, I guess. I just can't stop. And that doesn't read like a hobby to me. That reads like someone who figured out how to keep going. When I started this, I thought I was looking at a pretty straightforward story. A marriage, a family, a timeline you could follow from beginning to end. And that's not what this is. It's pieces, it's gaps, it's things that don't line up cleanly and people who don't stay where you expect them to. And Clara is right in the middle of it. Not as a headline, not as the person who gets the clean version of the story, just there, holding everything together anyway. I don't think she was trying to be strong. I think she was tired. Tired of carrying everything. Not just once, not just for a season, just all of it, all the time, and still having to function like nothing was wrong. It's not even the names or the timelines. It's that feeling of being done and still having to keep going. And then I look at her working on those ships, selling them for real money, enough that someone from National Geographic thought it was worth documenting. Not because her life was easy, but because she figured out how to make something of it. It's not that she pushed through, not that she was strong, she just kept building something anyway. And I know that feeling. I've been tired like that for a long time. I think a lot of us have. The difference is I can see it now, and I don't have to carry it the same way. That's Clara's story. Thanks for being here. I'll see you next time.